Yeah, no
Because I
problem.
wanted to
Give you some
I want to see what he says that to the Coriolis effect.
No longer live on your channel, Jeremy. I replaced it with my BurnEye channel now, so live on both my channels. I think Xirtus still for now. I'll check with him if he wants out. Much love and respect, Mr. Reese. We will catch you on the... And right before you go, I've been talking to the Hutchinsons. Are you okay with scheduling next weekend the next Crystal Battery build episode with the Hutchinsons there, Jeremy? Either Friday or Saturday?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'd like to. I'll touch base with you on that, and I want to talk more with Matt here, Rife, and get more into that RifeTechnologies stuff too. So that was awesome having him on earlier. I really wish I could.
100%. We will be doing.
Before you step away, Jeremy, just before you actually go to bed for the night, please do forward me Void's email address so that we can get in contact and I can send him that stuff. That way no one forgets.
Yeah, I'll do that now. Just so
yeah,
that
it's
I'll
just my name.
See you both.
Matthew is still there, saying 100% Jeremy, and exactly, Matthew. We'll be in touch, and we got to schedule a few of them together. Also, a Science of Sound episode within the next 2 weeks focused on that, and Year of the Coil focused on the agricultural experiments and side of things. And I'm sure we will have Gerald back on that too.
There's this really great you read Ptah Hotep Divine Maxims. Show that really quickly. Hold on. So like ancient times, there was this dude, Divine Ptah Hotep, supposed to live for like 100 and some odd years. And the 10 Commandments, they're based on like 42 maxims from Ptah Hotep. And they're pretty good. Prose 9.5. If you were a man of authority, be patient when you're listening to the words of a petitioner. Do not dismiss him until he has completely unburdened himself of what he had planned to say.
Yeah, that's why. I noticed that's a big problem with this community, wanting to get that microwave answer as fast as possible and completely impatient to wait for someone to explain. It's been a continuous problem with the community because we've learned to be so impatient over time. And that's killed the opportunity for so many people. If we learn to listen, hey, if you ever want to find your mentor, you've been looking for a mentor and one hasn't shown up, you know how they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear? Well, if you haven't found that teacher yet, it might be because you're trying to jump to the conclusion too fast or get there without taking all the necessary steps and going through the struggle. So when you do take the time to slow down and listen to what people are teaching and they want to be heard out, you're going to find that mentor just might appear. I've gotten 8 this year after learning that one skill, and it's probably the most important thing that I have learned I'm going to just say flat out ever. Learning how to listen to people with totally weird other perspectives that you want to scream out, you're crazy, or that can't be right, or that disagrees with everything I know, and just to shut the heck up and allow it to...
you gotta take the ride. You gotta ride. You gotta go on the ride.
Especially
if you want to have if you got one problem, wait till you have 100. You know what I mean? Like you want to go through all the things.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking back at our linear ways of thinking of stuff. I mean, a lot of it works, some of the math and stuff. I don't know about what he was saying about the fifths and that octave spiral and stuff, because it's all like geometry and divisions of dividing things up. So I don't quite.
I do want to get. I feel bad for Rife. I want to talk with Matt afterwards, and I feel great that he was super respectful and chill with the whole thing. But I definitely want to talk with him again, and we're gonna get Rife to go through.
No, we will be doing at least 2 episodes a week with Rife. He doesn't know what he's gotten himself.
And Nathan could have turned the music math into the science. Nathan was needed for that last part too. I really think he would have been able to weigh in, and it's unfortunate he left.
Well, I mean, we're 3.5 hours deep, and I was like, this guy wants to go.
Oh, I know.
We're gonna definitely.
He went really deep. like he should come back
Matt's
and
got
talk to
some,
Nathan, because those two would really, they would
Matt's
jive
got
really
some,
well.
Matt's got some papers that can disprove the latest Nobel Prize winning paper on gravitational waves and thinks that it proves more
Matt
friction
is
and gravity.
coming back in. Here we go.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I can't
like,
do it anymore. It's
I was-
three
Yeah,
a.m.
no worries,
Yeah,
Jerry.
I think-
it's, it's no longer live on your channel. We'll probably be ending it on Xirtus.
Alien says we love you.
But we
Yeah,
are
I probably have to go
also
to
now
bed.
live on my
Awesome,
BurnEye channel.
epic stream, guys. I'll see
Yeah.
you
Much
later.
love, brother. We will see you
It's-
again soon.
Peace.
And Rife, especially if you want, like, you know, we can schedule something. Come back if you want right now and keep
I
going.
still want to
But
hear
also
his
we can-
question.
After party.
We can
When
keep
you
going.
come
And,
back,
yeah.
We
Whatever
need
you
to
wanna do.
schedule the Science of Sound, the Crystal Battery series with the Hutchinsons, which will either be Friday or Saturday. I'm thinking the Science of Sound we can probably do the following week, and a year of the coil that is specifically on the testing and setups of over Unity, or yeah, I guess over Unity or efficiency of it, and then another one strictly on the agricultural sides of it all.
Yeah, let's just call it Unity Gain.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Unity gain. That's going to gain some momentum right there. We got
And
the
speaking of
Unity gain.
momentum, you know, last year, about halfway through the year, like I said, I got to it a little late, but coined that term year of the coil.
Year of fields.
Yeah, and we know what this new year, it's actually going to be year of the super fields, because now we're going to talk about what happens, and heavily this year, this is going to be the main focus as far as what I'm seeing happen now ahead of time, that we're going to now talk about how fields interfere with each other and create conjugate or superposition states. And so when we start to get into field self-interaction and field compound interaction, that's going to be that super field. So this one, I'll coin it now, year of the super fields. You're muted again, by the way.
Oh, there we go. I said I like that. I guess Rife's having an issue getting back in, so I'm just going to need a moment to resend him the link. Maybe it changed since the stream ended. No, because it's still live on here. That doesn't make sense. Maybe
They might be crushing.
anyway, I'll send him a new link. So yes, momentarily be right back.
And by the way, yeah, year of the fields, that comes from Dan Foster. So give credit where credit is due. He was the guy that came up with that one. And I think we just need to add one little word to that in order to really bring it all together in both the figurative and literal sense, when the fields come together and do brand new things they don't do on their own.
There it is. Are you still here, brother? What are you saying, good sir?
I'll do some research. I have some old books on the vital forces and unifying fields with von Reichenbach, and old experiments with crystals and magnets. I'm not doing experiments, obviously, but you make me want to. I want to like get magnets, and I want to get.
Start with the research first, looking it up, and then replicating it, and that's what it's all about. So, yes, please.
Validating, like, as if it's worth even trying to replicate. But you are doing such cool stuff. Thank you for letting me just sit in and ask a couple questions. I'm gonna try and find that. I'll try a frequency book too, because I had specific questions and I haven't looked at it for a long time. But this is the place to go. It's like sitting with the modern day like Teslas and Reichs, and it's really cool that you're doing all this. So thank you for showing it, Jeremiah. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Oh, and Rife's back now. This is the coolest thing to just. I'm gonna just mute and stay for a little bit longer.
Wow.
Yes, I got Void's contact. Excellent, thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt. I just have a 4-hour drive tomorrow, and I was enjoying the conversation, and that's why I put in the chat. I was like, I'm sorry I had to dip out. I'm going to go lay down because I have like a 4-hour drive tomorrow. But I listened to every bit of that, and a lot of that stuff, I really like this guy. There's a lot of things I agree with, even though that you take Qigong and it's within theory only, but what the way that he phrased it and the way that he said that he can coincide it with, actual science and physics and be able to prove it. This is the same way that I work. So if you look at a lot of this, if you look at like a chi coil, like a wireless energy or wireless, wireless charging coil, chi coil. Now, all of this is relative to that. And all the math actually works out, because if you take a coil and then you counterwire the coil to where they match exactly on top of each other, you get a higher transmission rate of that charging. This is how they went to like 7.5 volts, 15 volts, and everything else, because if it's two coils that are wound the same exact way, even though they have the same resonance, it did not transfer the same amount of energy as what it would if they were counterwound.
Well, Rife, I can actually back that up with I won't pull out the whole example now, but I actually did an example on BurnEye's channel quite a number of shows ago, where I took simply, and I'll turn on my cam for a second just as the demonstrator. So I took 4 coils that basically look just like this one here.
And I remember you showing me this, and you put them inside the inner ring, and you're trying to be able to transmute inner time.
This is a live experiment, so this goes beyond that, beyond the reflection. So any one of those coils on its own has a resonant frequency of 3.3 megahertz.
Okay.
Even if I move my hand closer, I can drop that frequency, but if there's nothing else around it, its maximum self-frequency is 3.3 megahertz. There's really no way to increase it. I can only decrease it by adding capacitance, so the LC circuit is balanced. But something really, really interesting does happen, and I'll grab the other coils and at least set them out as soon as I see where I have set the entire arrangement. Geez, I stuck that whole thing somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. So let me grab these just as a showing example. So if any one of these coils, and these are the ones that have the 3.3 megahertz resonant frequency, if I oscillate or I pump in, because all the grounds are tied together here at this common point in between, if I pump this just from a single signal coming out of my function generator, just the positive wire pumping this, and leave the ground connected only to earth ground, that means that it's going to ground through that signal generator and start pumping up a signal up and down, and that's going to give us a resonant frequency. If I take this one coil, 3.3 meg, and I stick this other coil next to it, and they're both connected at the ground, something interesting and unexpected happens. You would think the copper here would cause capacitance and drop the inductance, but instead, because both these coils are doing the same thing, but now they've taken that same thing and they've spread it out from one spot into 2 spots, the frequency goes up from 3.3 million cycles per second to 3.8 million cycles per second. If I add this third one into the circuit, it now goes up to just a little over 4 megahertz. And if I add the fourth one, now we are 4.3 million cycles per second. So we can actually increase the free resonant frequency of multiple oscillators, which are identical. And each of these is absolutely identical, as much as I could humanly make it. I sanded for several hours the tops of these PVC pipes. I took a caliper, measured exactly where the holes need to be drilled, measured exactly how long the wires need to be made, tried to keep the angles as close as I possibly could. So my copper mass should be about as close as I can match it. And the only difference is maybe the dielectric here, the PVC pipes may have some moisture in them or slightly different capacitance, so that does affect it. But they're as close as I can get them. The fact that when we get multiple coils that are virtually identical to each other in the same physical space, and we can expand their distance from each other apart, we can actually shift their phase and their frequency, because we're doing something fundamental to the properties of space and time. These are changing the permeativity of the local space, making it easier for a signal to flow through this wire. And if you calculate out the free resonant frequency of these, as we add more and more together, we're figuring out that it's actually superluminal.
Well, and also what you're doing is, depending on the closeness of the different coils, your electric is running on the outside of the copper it's running over the area of the outside of the copper,
right?
Or copper. So therefore, they may be combining and jumping over one another. But I suggest that we take up a donation so you can get a 3D printer so that they can all be exactly the same, instead of you sanding down copper or PVC pipe.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I still haven't, and I was planning on getting a 3D printer, but I still, for some reason, haven't done it yet. And
if you send Andreas the specs, he could print that out. He's got a 3D printer.
I have in my office, I have 7 3D printers. You send me whatever outside diameter, inside diameter you want, and I'll 3D print all of them for you.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome too. Wow.
But yeah, I just didn't want to be disrespectful and interrupt.
Amazing, right? Like, because it's like sometimes when like it's a massive theory and thesis, and it's like you just can't get distracted, or when you're on the tangent and like have it organized in your mind, you just gotta put it all out there. And like it's so much especially like my alchemy learnings and understandings, and like the platonic solids, the geometries, the structures of what both like the knowledge that the ancients had with it, with Pythagoras, and like these mystery cults, but it's like, or societies or whatever, but it's like it's this higher lost knowledge of the structure of the universe, and it's all there, and it has to do with the fractal geometry of light and sound interacting with each other.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all experimentation. Just I do it every single day, even though there's a lot of stuff that's been written down. I've checked all of Roy's notes, and I've double checked everything. I've done my own experiments to try things out, and what I've found is every one of them are true. But now we're just moving on to experimentation of old knowledge and bringing it back to today.
That's amazing. And on the next one, we will have to go deep into the agricultural experiments, like crop yields, all of that sort of testing, because that's something that everybody can do at home with these different technologies that's safe, as opposed to just going off the basis of putting it in these energies into yourself, not knowing what you're doing, the potential harm, as opposed to learning and developing the science on the plants, on the yields, on the agriculture, and applying it for, plenty for all, essentially. Like the scarcity that we put on ourselves, on humanity, is ridiculous. We need to take it back to abundance.
I wouldn't say we.
Yeah, there you go. I would want to ask too about the rods and cones. You were talking about vision and frequency, and that's something I consider everything that can improve this and that. I know, like ADHD, all these. I've looked into a lot of frequencies and healing, but maybe next time you could elaborate more on how there's visual impact that you can have, or just.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that too, changing the rods and cones with right frequencies, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can have possibly have people on, just like my aunt, and she started hearing noise again, like white noise that she wasn't able to hear, and she's in her 60s, and now she's hearing like she's an 18-year-old girl.
Oh my gosh!
Just after like 5 days.
Wow.
You said 5 days or 5 doses?
5 days.
5. Wow.
Well, 5 days of one session a day.
I thought that was impossible. I thought once those little hairs were damaged and once those cells were no longer receiving that, hearing was pretty much permanently damaged, and they were reverse that. But sounds like you're telling me it is reversible.
My stepfather has his AUD in audiology. He's a doctor of audiology, and most audiologists will not go past like a master's. There's only a few doctors of audiology compared to master's degrees, and he has what's called shooter's ear, and it's where the hair cells are damaged so much that you hear a ringing. Now I can oscillate those hair cells and stimulate hair growth to where that ringing stops.
Oh, you're stimulating growth of new hair follicles.
Yeah, and I was asking him about clinical trials, and he's been out of school for so long that he said it's mainly people that are going on their thesis and everything else that do clinical trials. But I'm going to ask him more about it probably tomorrow. I have to go set up his computer on a printer and everything. Maybe I can get a video with him and let him use even just our small Spoonie or $420 unit and see what he says.
I'd be interested for sure.
Yeah. Really interesting.
Yeah, I'll for sure. I'll go up there and I'll take a video.
And are you taking like what you're using from some of the documents you found, or are you just doing experimentation, or?
No, these are a lot of the stuff is documentation. The newer stuff that I've brought out, like on agriculture, is experimentation. and it's all springboarded off of this knowledge that was of the past. So everything that I look at, I'll give you a perfect example is, Joe Rogan asked Elon Musk, and this is not an opinion up on either one of them, but he asked him, how are you allowed to build tunnels up underneath LA? And Elon said, well, I started digging a hole. That tunnel's nothing but a hole in the ground. So if you break everything down into its finest form, you really get the true answers that you need, because everything comes from springboarding off of the basic knowledge that we have. Like they say, everything you'll ever need to know, you learn in kindergarten.
There you go.
And also on the next one, we're going to have to do a whole segment of just investigating, looking into the microscope technology, the Rife microscope, because that is like, it's so documented, so crucial to like just science, and at the same time like validates all of like the Rife science and thesis behind all of it, right? Like that. It's like it's practical technology built off of
it's empirical evidence that it exists and is effective.
Using it. Yeah, it's pretty huge.
Yeah, the Rife.
I'd love to have one of those microscopes just to be.
But you're talking about the universal microscope?
I'm not sure.
So Rife developed numbers. He developed numbers 1 through 5 microscopes, and then he did the universal microscope that had the 60,000 times zoom.
I think that is the one. Yes.
Yeah, the one that he saw a live virus with his eyes. He was the first person to ever see it. Yeah. So that's one of the pages. I'll send you like a full, like high quality image via email. But that's one of the pages that's on my website. 1 of 3 of the diagrams on how to build it.
And I bet that was his communication, if he had any, with Reich at all. Wilhelm Reich. He was doing the cellular biology, life force, ether, organic.
Yeah, and I don't, and I just want to reiterate this. I don't remember if he had that interaction, but I think that he did, and I'm still looking for stuff.
I feel like they're connected, because I think I was looking into Reich, and then I was like, Rife? And I was like, wait, how are they? What's the relation in some of something that was referenced? So I know there was some correspondence or relation to, or one cited the other in their research, and that's so cool. Regardless, just that they're kind of, networking together, these suppressed scientists.
I have so much stuff that I'm bringing out, and I'm just going to keep on releasing. There it is, right there in the middle, the whitest one. That's 1 of 3 of the diagrams on how to build. You can zoom in. I should have put the high quality image up. I'm pretty sure I did, so you can zoom in pretty far.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't even gotten there yet. I'm excited to check this all out.
So that's on RifeTechnology.com.
For which I am posting the link in the live chat for everybody that is interested in looking at this.
Super incredible, useful stuff. This is amazing.
That is what, yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for sharing this with everybody.
Matt, if you do have a higher resolution that you can email me, it would be awesome. And I would get it ready for a future.
I want to turn on a machine and see better, just because I press a button, and then that'd be sweet.
Somebody with fibromyalgia, man, I could probably get her to write a testimonial tomorrow.
That would be super cool.
But she had fibromyalgia, and I didn't know that fibro actually caused like a hazing of the eyes. And she said, like, after just a couple of minutes of her running it, the haziness on her eyes went away.
Yeah. And who knows what type of frequency it's targeting, within that system of function.
Maybe I can get Hunter on here one day too, if you guys don't mind. Yeah, absolutely. So this is Hunter, your partner here, explaining your device on your website.
Yeah, we also did, Hunter's wife and I I hired her as an assistant. First thing, she quit being a registered nurse. She's got a master's in nursing. She quit her business and come over and started working for me. And then I asked Hunter, I was like, man, I can't do this alone. I need a partner. And he shut down his construction company. Like, both of them very successful and everything. And they just shut it down to just walk, with nothing really laid out totally. And, we've just been successful because we work hard every day and we go through everything. So we did a podcast with Dr. Beth Westy. And she's on TikTok as well, though. Dr. Beth Westy. That podcast is going to be coming out in March, and then she said that we can post it to our YouTube channel. I said, well, we'll wait about a week, and then we can drive other people to her too.
Nice.
Man, Hunter looks really small in there. I'm going to have to jump onto him for that. Because I'm 6'1". He's
channel, I was like, I don't think that's him, but that's because it's not. It's Hunter. And yes, this is your partner. We definitely would love to have Hunter on sometime. And
and his wife, registered nurse. That'd be anybody that's wanting to talk about this.
We met Grandma today, and bless you, Grandma, for sparing us your grandson for the day or the evening.
Right? That's our.
Rife, is that gentleman there the engineer you were talking about that you work with, or is that someone different?
This is my business partner. He's not an engineer, but he owned a construction company. But he's explaining, like, he's very highly level trained, like physical combat and everything like that, self-protection, and he's very structured. But this is our gold unit that we show right here. That's the gold. That's the one a step below the Royal.
Okay, so that's what you were talking about earlier. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, we have 4 different levels of units, and it goes like right here's the silver, and the silver comes with 2 coils. You guys have probably recognized the coils, so I brought them up, but I've had to tune them and everything else.
Yeah, Bernie, get him up on full screen here.
You'll notice that these look a lot like the Rodden coils, and they have a similar wrapping pattern, but they are different from the UFO or space coils, because they do have the barrier wire on it, and they're tuned specifically different. A lot of people don't get that, but like electrical engineers or everyone else does. But this is our silver unit that we sell for $776, and it comes in a protective case as well.
It's a fancy kit. That's the silver one. I didn't see the box, the silver box, or the box.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, the itself, because you were kind of tiny. Not that one. I mean the actual unit itself.
Oh.
See that, but you were just a tiny little. So, not the coils, the driver, the generator.
So this is a Fosi audio amplifier, and so we have our settings on the top. And we're going to get some help on that, but this is a model number.
Oh, I see. And I understand why you're using that now, because of its built-in Bluetooth functionality along with your app. There you go.
And also it's got the power supply on the outside, which helps out a lot because we're having some issues. And Jeremiah is going to help us out with the feedback loop, because we have the sticker on top because we're feeding more energy coming back into it.
Yeah, that would be me, the Jeremiah that you're talking.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought it was Andres. You guys sound a little bit alike.
Probably. I mean, a bit.
Andreas still technically is asleep, but it's right next to us. So
it's more like a dolphin thing where like half the brain is sleeping and the other half is moving.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna send you guys the 5 unit. There's still one more guy I gotta find out who I gotta send the Royal unit to. But yeah, you'll get to see this, Jeremiah, and you'll get to understand like how come I have too much energy coming back in, because whenever you switch my Royal units over, they're counter-wound to each other, just like the G coil that I was talking about. And you can set it outside on just a heavy plasma generated day in the atmosphere, and you can generate electricity, collect collect electricity from it.
Having impedance matching issues with that amp and looking at the coils and the number of turns that they have very low inductance, and they're also doing very likely field canceling. I'll figure out when I actually check the wiring on them if they are field canceling. But if that's the case, it's gonna change your Q factor quite a bit, and it's gonna force the signal right back in as fast as it comes out. But there is a way to compensate for that, and I'll see.
That's what we need to where we can run the amps without them turning off because it's just being overloaded pretty much. So I think it's I forget what it is.
And you said those were by Filer, or no?
What's that?
You said those coils were by Filer or no?
By
Filer, as in two wires wound simultaneously at the same time?
No, they're not. So they're differential wire gauges, but you'll see it whenever you see it, or you'll know it whenever you see it. I'm sorry. You'll understand a lot more whenever you see it. I can't really explain it. I'm really
no problem. I was just curious about where the impedance mismatch is really rooted in, but I think I see where it's at. Hey,
yeah, it's because we're bringing in more energy. We're collecting all of this leaked electricity, and we're collecting it within the coil. So whatever I'm sending out,
Anthony,
if I'm sending out like say 1 watt, I'm bringing in more than 1 watt back into the amplifier, so it's overloading the amplifier.
Right. The problem is that it's direct. The feedback is directly in phase with the output signal, so they're phase canceling. Yep. Then, of course, your amp is seeing a load where you measure it with the meter, and it might look like it's 0.6, 0.7 ohms, and as your frequency goes up, it'll appear higher. But in your case, your amp is seeing that thing as a dead short.
Yeah, and I have no idea how to fix it. And
it's an extremely hard problem to fix. And by extremely hard, I mean engineers spend years and years, some decades, to try and solve this problem with high power transmission, because you start to get these refractive effects where signal does feedback. It's actually been a known issue with high power radio transmitters operating in the megawatts range, where the antennas themselves are not quite the correct size. They have to be sized depending on whether or not the transmission array is facing out or whether it's conjugating. They have to be sized slightly different because they modify at their maximum power level the variable refractive index surrounding those antennas enough to the point where their length is no longer correct. And so it have to be just ever so slightly modified so that they can compensate for that change in the local speed of light surrounding the antenna.
What I was thinking about doing, because of that feedback loop on it, now my coils are tuned specifically for, resonance that work with biological issue, like just with the human body. I was thinking that maybe I could do the Tesla coil and lower my amperage. I don't need the ohm resistance. And then whenever I do the current on it, I can run higher currents through, but I can have them grounded out through the plug that goes to the house, that goes to the grounding of the earth.
Yeah, you're what's the right word for this?
Crazy.
No, I'm thinking it's something that grows out of something else. I'll remember it later. I got an honest phrase here right now, bad. But anyways, yeah, it's you can convert current into voltage into current very easily with those things through the field dynamics. But what's really important with Tesla's tech is understanding that it is changing the properties of the space around it, or the vacuum around it, so we can utilize that with absolutely no cost to the energy input or resonance of the circuit. And we can use it to pump in and out electrons from the Earth, which is exactly what he had found out how to do. And using that same mechanism, instead of pumping electrons for power distribution, we can use them for communications or just about anything else that we want. As long as we understand that when we get a rotating field crossing a compression or an expansion field, which is also known as a scalar potential, when we put those two things together in the same volume of space, which is something all-star coils inherently do, then we end up with a third type of field that's not simply the Lorentz force. It's not simply the mathematical mixing of these two fields. It modifies something fundamental in that velocity c, and this third field is not recognized at all in any of the mathematics because it's a non-zero gauge field.
I think they don't recognize it for the same exact reason they don't recognize that plasma can go below 40 hertz. They just can't measure it.
Well, we can light up a neon bulb with DC, and that's a plasma at 0 hertz. So,
But you can't measure it.
as long as it's a frequency at anything other than 0 hertz, it can still be measured. Fran D'Aquino has a series of papers on ultra low frequencies down to 0.001 hertz and below through plasmas to cause gravitational phenomena that don't appear right away. They may take 20 or 30 minutes or more to build up, but after some period of time, they have some kind of a localized effect that is directly correlated with their position in the room and the rest of the matter surrounding them, and they will cause strange anomalies in the weight of objects placed above them.
Yes, and that's the way they measure it, because plasma generates standing energy waves. And that's the only way they can do it, because they say, okay, so the atmosphere, you have plasma activity, where's it going to? It's always standing waves. It's always going to be there unless it's positively ionizing air that comes down to the ground. So it's the same principle, what you're talking about, because it affects other things. That's how they measure it. So, but the measurement of actual plasma, from my understanding, I'll send you this guy's thesis paper, and it was like he won some kind of award. He was a professor in Texas, and he was talking about this, and he was talking about that same principle and how they measured because of the effects of things out around it, but they just couldn't measure the actual frequency below 40 hertz on plasma.
Does the ultra high and ultra low frequencies, do they interact with each other at all? Is there a repel effect? If you have like an ultra high frequency, ultra low, we can't hear either. Do they combine? Is it cumulative? Is it,
Cumulative is the right word. You totally nailed it with that. And all frequencies through the same medium will in fact interact with each other, no matter how different they are in their frequency. So if you're talking sound wave to sound wave, it doesn't matter if you're talking ELF sound wave and ultrasonic sound. Yes, they will in fact interact. It's just that those effects might be very difficult to measure because of their extraordinary difference in frequencies. But over time, they compound and build up, like we talked about, that third field, that third coherent outcome that grows from the conditions being changed. I mean, technically, all types of waves that exist anywhere interact with each other, whether they be electromagnetic to acoustic, or whether they be mechanical or otherwise. I mean, they're all waves do fundamentally interact with each other because they all exist and have to be carried through the materium, this three-dimensional place that we call reality, and through the aether, which is the underlying fabric or framework on which all materials continuously exist. So
yeah, there's some really good function generators on Apple that you can run 3 different frequencies, and you can see like the actual frequency that's coming out. Because like I said, if I run positive 2 dB and I run negative 2 dB, it comes out to a flat line. They cancel each other out. This is the way noise canceling headphones work. It hears the outside noise, the ambient noise, and then it plays the exact opposite and it cancels it out.
right, exactly. But when they cancel, they're actually canceled. That's the amazing part. We may no longer be able to detect them, measure them, or hear them, but all of the energy from that compression and expansion still exists. It's just been localized at exactly the spot where the 2 waves cancel out. And this creates something brand new that we really need to play with. I mean, this is
like anti-gravity, or I'm saying, like,
called it.
If you find the right frequencies.
And well, that's the theory, because if you read this paperwork, or the paper that won the Nobel Prize by Gauss or something, I forget his name, in 2017, that they're redefining gravity as in gravitational waves. And they're talking about, if this was actual gravity, then from here to Pluto, it would have to interact instantaneously. Now, a lot of what I think that I can disprove is if you look at fertilization, or like the sperm release of like coral reefs, right? Now, the coral reefs do not release that sperm on the same day every year. In fact, they could be a month apart every other year, but at the same time, every year, every night, all of the corals release at one time. Now, that's just a proven effect that they can communicate, and they're communicating through electrical energy through the earth. So if we can do that through the Earth, why can we not do it through space? Because we have radio frequency waves. We know that I could, like where I lived across from the big house at the University of Michigan, I could hear on the radio just a split second what the announcers were saying versus the sound waves that were coming in through my window, because sound waves travel slower through the air.
All right. Well, I can answer that question of why is it so difficult to do it through space directly here.
Compression, decompression, atmosphere.
It's because matter itself, any matter, whether it be gaseous, solid, liquid, or otherwise, is going to act like a conjugation medium or something in which waves can travel together and then interact with the material that's there. So anytime we have a material, it's going to help mix the waves together because it's going to have a physical fundamental effect with all the electron valences, the proton spin, the magnetic moment of every single particle. But when we get into the vacuum of space, now we have to deal with the field fabric. And the field fabric is so tiny and so much faster that trying to interact with it requires something brand new that we need to acknowledge, which is how we can fluctuate the physical metrics of permeability and permeativity, permeability and permeativity at the same time.
EMFs do that.
And that's a lot harder to do. It involves perfect matching of angles between magnetic and electric fluxes that are radiative so that they actually build up on each other and produce that third wave.
So
like
our
the
solar
pyramid
system,
alignment and the things that are so concise that they had to deal with this kind of science before.
yeah, well, and our solar system is so aligned with each other, just like all the pyramids, what you're talking about, because all the pyramids are up on the ley lines of Earth, which is pretty much Earth's power grid, and our solar system is supposedly more aligned together than what's built within the pyramids, so that instantaneous travel could very well be true. What I look at this paper being that they won the Nobel Prize to proven gravitational waves, it's nothing but theory in its concept, just like what I'm producing. So I should win a Nobel Prize if I can present
That's why I've got the little laser interferometer to actually show the production and control of gravitational waves, which is of course supposed to be completely impossible without enormous Jupiter mass-sized energies. So
Could it have to do with more electromagnetics though, and also?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anytime
Yeah.
you electric or magnetic field, you end up with a shift in the permeativity or permeability of that local space. But when you mix the both together, you end up with a shift in time or the speed of light.
And one thing about EMFs is that's really weird. So if you get like an N42 magnet, Jeremiah, I want you to go ahead and measure the magnetic flux on top of one of my coils at like 33 hertz. And I want you to see like the movement of this magnet. And then I want you to fill a jar full of water that has that magnet in it and watch the movement. It's not going to slow down or speed up very much at all. It's the permeability of that magnetic flux and the EMFs that's making it travel at a higher rate of speed, but less slowed down versus just regular water friction.
If your coils do produce any kind of superluminal output or any kind of spatial time compression, my laser interferometer will be able to show us.
Can't wait. I don't know if they will or not, but I'd love to see if they do.
I mean, that's not necessary at all for the function of what they are built. But if they do, you can rest assured I'll be looking for it. That's one of the first things I wanted to test on that thing, is to see if these coils, if your specific geometries can do it. Because I know of other geometries that can and have. So I am curious to see what you've come up with. Hey, so, well, we've been going for, 4 hours and 14 minutes. I can tell everybody's getting tired. So
Yeah, I guess exactly, right? And he says got to do a drive tomorrow too. So why don't we continue this into the next year of the coil? And also I'll be back for the Hutchinson Crystal Battery this weekend, as well as the Science Sound coming up next weekend.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
And
oh my gosh.
Because
wow, this has been incredible. So thank you very much. It's like a dream come true to sit in with these people.
And Mr. Rife, you
awesome.
are welcome to join during any of the regular streams. So if you're available, by all means, just come on and we will gladly have you on, good sir.
Yeah. Awesome. You guys know how to be in contact. I'll be reaching out to you guys as well.
Take it easy, Matt. Thanks for coming on. Been a great conversation, and we will chat very soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Awesome. All right. Much love, everyone. And one more time, this amazing AI art.
Well,
Outro.
before you do that, I will just
Okay.
post the link for the StreamYard in the live chat for any of those late night owls who still want to talk the same technology and the same science. I'll stick around.
Okay, awesome.
Ask you
All
to
right.
for 5 minutes to let people in because I know you're.
Absolutely. We can definitely do that. For the after party, talk some extra science. Anybody want to join? There it is. Love you all. We will see you on the next one.